we're really excited to what we were able to do tonight. Obviously, there was a lot of things outside of our control, so we wanted to make sure that we're ready for every scenario. We're through the moon with what happened. We were able to add two cornerstone type pieces of the franchise, add a quarterback who's got a lot of potential, a lot of ability, who's won at a high level at a lot of different places, an edge rusher who again impacts the game and is just scratching the surface. We think of his ability set, one of the top defensive players on our board. We can't believe we got them both in the same draft. Really excited what happened. Excited for them to come, join our culture, be the best version of themselves, grow, develop, and help this team. And ultimately, I think this is one of the outcomes we're really excited about, and we're glad we're here. With that, I'll take any questions.
Kwesi, was McCarthy the guy that you all were targeting all along?
I don't think that question's tough. I think I said earlier, we were very big here on quarterbacks and how differently they can impact the game. What I can tell you is that he was somebody whose skill set we were really excited about. We know we can build around and win with. Again, he's just scratched. It's somebody you're talking about from a talent standpoint is as talented as anybody in the draft. He asked me, I do personal Zooms with all those guys, and one of the last questions he asked me, he'll tell you this story, actually. I talked to him the day that they all got their rings. And so he wears all his rings one day a year, and he only had thumbs free. But as we're talking, and he said, is there a reason you wouldn't draft me? And I said, honestly, from a talent standpoint, no. You're just a bit of an unknown because you played in an offense that's pretty run-heavy and different things like that, so there's some guesswork. But from what we've seen, we think you can do it, and meeting you and knowing the person and all those different things. So like I said, we're just really excited about the skill set and the person we've added.
So there was maybe some more projecting that you had to do in your work with him?
Sure. Look, there's a level of projection with all these guys, right, coming into this league and different things like that. But once you get around the person, a lot of the guesswork goes away. Again, we talked about our process. We think it was really thorough. Get him in the classroom environment. Incredibly, the learning an offense is not going to be a problem to him. That's for sure. Really, just getting the reps under your belt. How close can you get to your 2,000 hours? He's one of the youngest players in the draft, so getting him close. But I think we have the environment to foster him. Josh McCown, KO, all these guys. They got West. They got a plan for him down to the day. What he's going to be working on, specific things. We're not going to rush his development. We're going to do what's best for the Vikings in the short and long term, and we're excited to have him.
Kwesi, go through your thought process there, whether you wanted to wait at 11 or felt like you need to move up, and how much did the Penix pick at 8 kind of change things?
I'm a fan of history. I know that nobody's ever been picked in the top 10, so I was ready for it. No, I think it was one of those things we were ready. We just knew if at some point if one surprise happened, we had to be ready, had that teed up. And you're always sweating a little bit with that one pick in between, but this business is about taking a little risk and trying to get a reward, and I think we got that in the end.
Kwesi, after you guys took McCarthy, NFL Network was just talking about the pick and obviously said that, he doesn't have as big of a sample size, but going to a place with Coach O'Connell is just huge for his development. How much of an impact does that make when you have someone who can coach quarterbacks so well?
It all started on a conference room table in Los Angeles when we first, sat face to face, and we talked about these things, not just, what do we want to do from a culture standpoint, but how do you evaluate quarterbacks? How do you grow quarterbacks? How do you develop them? And those things he talked about are the reason why I have so much faith in him, to take a mold of clay like him, which, again, I think his talent, his traits are as high-end as anybody, and mold him into that player we want to be. And I think we talked about a lot here. A lot of times, when we go back over history and we say these quarterbacks have missed, a little bit more aggressive. But for players like that, who we would have taken at 11, we thought we were going to go before we picked. You don't end up regretting those decisions.
How excited was Coach Flores to get that pick in?
Flo's a calm customer, but he was excited. I think he's just taking the whole environment in, and we're all of us. We're kind of wired for what's next. He's like, okay, we got this. Where's my, that's kind of how we're all wired, because we got to compete at the highest level. This division, this league is going to be very good, and so you can't spend too much time patting yourself on the back. You got to go figure out what's next.
What did you learn from Jim Harbaugh about McCarthy?
He's his biggest fan, as you know, and I know a lot about the relationship. Has been well documented, and obviously I've talked to JJ about it as well. But that guy knows leadership and he knows passion, having been around him. And I know what he looks for in a quarterback, and I'm not surprised that him and JJ had such a connection, and just the positivity that he brings, the culture, all those different things. And then, but from a talent standpoint, I remember when he used to talk about how much he loved Colin and just different things about his skill set and why he liked him and different things like that. So not a surprise, and just the conversation we've had were great. But we got a lot of great feedback. Sharon Moore was great with us. He's like, that's the guy. Trust me, that's the guy. And just a lot of people speak highly of him. You walk in those hallways there. There's not a person that's not a big fan of JJ McCarthy. And so look, we're really happy with him coming here. He's excited. He's a competitive kid. I know that, and he's looking to prove everybody right, wrong, or indifferent.
Quincy, I know you still have draft picks to go here, but when you look at this offseason in total, do you feel like you're accomplishing what you set out to do?
Never done, never satisfied. But I do think we set some goals in mind, and we've accomplished a lot of them. You're never perfect, you're never clean. But if you told me, a few months ago, when it started, that we ended up here, I think I'd be excited. I don't really go much more than that. I know maybe it doesn't sound that way, but I'm thinking about the next move to make. Maybe there's some more to come. But I just, you're trying to build a championship team. It's a championship mindset. The people I've been around, I was always surprised that it was just never enough, always more. That's the mindset you got to have, and I think we try to do that today, and we'll keep trying to do that.
A couple more questions. There was a report tonight that you were among the teams that in talking to Harbaugh maybe about McCarthy had asked about Justin Herbert. And I know if he's on another team and what the
Yeah.
implications there are, but was acquiring a veteran from another team even amongst the possibilities you guys worked through this offseason?
I wish I could tell you as to how much joy we get from seeing the stuff that gets written, even some of the projected trades you had. These aren't things that ever come out of this building, man. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where this stuff comes from. Sometimes it works out in our favor, but I can't even respond.
Listen, you're sitting there at 11. Like, how do you decide when it's worth trading up or rolling the dice?
Yeah, I always talk about minimizing regret. And if you're sitting on your couch one day and you're like, that extra fifth or whatever it was, and it could have had a chance at a guy that you think has traits and could be special, you're never going to care about that fifth-round pick, and there's ways of getting it back. Obviously, I'm a spreadsheet calculator guy myself, but sometimes you got to, step out from there, take your Clark Kent glasses off, and just have a championship mindset and swing for a great player.
How do you fight, not wanting to do that sooner or, not panicking?
Yeah, I just think we had a good sense. Again, it's an opportunity cost for every team in front of us, so we knew how good the players in front of us were. So it's not just like these were hard decisions to make, I'm sure, for the teams that took quarterbacks, because you're talking about, we think, franchise cornerstones at a lot of positions that matter in this draft, in this sport. We happen to end up with one later in the draft, but I think a lot of teams were going through that very decision themselves, and so we were confident that we were going to be in a good spot. But to your point, there's always a surprise. Like, we weren't expecting exactly what happened to happen, so we just had outs. Today, in relationships matter. That's the other thing. Make sure that you check in with Joe D, and you make sure that you're on your good speaking terms. And I'll make sure I get him a bottle of tequila next time I see him.
Quincy, when he asks you, when JJ asks you, is there a reason you wouldn't draft me? How often do you find players being that forthright with you or asking that direct of a question in these interviews?
Yeah, we get pretty. I think interviews. I use interviews as a chance to get to know people, not really to evaluate them. So I think some of the questions I ask, we get I feel like I know these guys, you know, and so that doesn't surprise me. But I will tell you about him. I think something I've learned about him, his emotional intelligence is a superpower. I think it's well documented. This, you know, the meditation, all the things he does emotionally or whatever, and he is a superpower to create really lasting bonds. Like when we watched him around his teammates, it's honestly, I would just describe it as a love that it just like you're just in passing, you see it. So once seeing that didn't surprise me. You know, I asked for all of them. I asked for all of them a question that it kind of was reflective of, you know, who they are, and you know, he talked about love and different things like that. So for him to be that, you know, forthcoming and, you know, and vulnerable, I think is not surprising at all. It makes him a great leader.
We'll bring KO in next.
Thanks, guys.